Hardware Canucks and Mass Drop have teamed up to deliver something incredible. Stay tuned for more details.
This video was brought to you by NCIX. Great technology, selection, and service.
Alright, it's very clear we're excited to receive the Enthoo Luxe, and I'm positive many of us are extremely happy of Phanteks' presence in the chassis market, as they have continued to dominate the features to dollar ratio and almost set a benchmarks of how we view new releases from the competition. At least from now on, we've labeled the Enthoo Pro the chassis of the year, and it hasn't even been close to losing that title, so let's see whether or not Phanteks are kind of competing with themselves almost. The Enthoo Luxe comes in black and white with a slight price difference, surprising considering the different color versions of the Primo have remained the same, but still at $139 for the black, the Luxe brings a few luxury features to the table, as the core frame and design remain identical to the Enthoo Pro, and to those with limited budgets, that's good news, as the Enthoo Pro at $100 is an outstanding choice. So what are these luxury features Phanteks has incorporated? Well, for one, the aluminum exterior panels are sandblasted for a different look with this grainy texture instead of sort of the brushed aluminum that we constantly see, and at certain angles it's quite sparkly, and unlike brushed aluminum, it does not leave as visible handling marks, so good stuff. The side panel remains the same with this dual window design for the main chamber and another revealing the Phanteks logo, just peeking a little bit through, that I absolutely love. At the front we get 3 optical bays and behind this cover that on our sample didn't fully open, but this is a pre-production sample and everything should be ironed out for retail. There are 4 USB ports, audio jacks, reset button. The power button is sort of isolated up top with surrounding illumination, pretty cool. And speaking of illumination, the Enthoo Luxe comes equipped with ambient multicolor LED system that runs along each side of the chassis, both at the top and the front panel, with a very soft lighting strip that's not too harsh and allows you to color match the Luxe to the internal color scheme. It is an elegant implementation that works well, and the only critique from the build that we did are the greens don't particularly match the light green on the GPU, and I think full hue adjustment here might be the solution. The front panel pops open and you can easily disconnect the illumination wiring for convenient workflow. A 200mm fan is included, and dual 140 and 120mm mounts are available for the front intake. The dust filter on the panel is removable, plus the actual aluminum piece can be unscrewed as well, and I wish these tall standoffs, as you can see, were attached to the removable piece instead of the panel. For example, if you'd want to clear up some of that resistance for the front intake, you would have that option, but it doesn't look very nice. At the rear we get an exhaust fan with flexible mounting thanks to these strips, 8 PCI slots with side reservoir mount, and the Enthoo Luxe stands on large rubberized feet with dust filters spanning the entire bottom, one removable from the front and the other from the back. The top dust filter utilizes these click-to-release notches that gains you access to the top fan configuration with a 140mm fan included, and support for 360 or 420mm radiators. Fans can be installed above the frame for extra internal clearance or for push and pull setups. And moving on to the core features of the frame, the side panels swivels to open, so no need to line up any notches, and this makes closing the panel that much easier, especially the rear panel with once all the cable management is done. brilliant. The internals are fully enthusiast ready with quality rubber grommets, an abundance of cutouts around the tray, and pre-installed motherboard standoffs to make things easy. Also notice the power supply bracket for compartment separation. There's only one grommeted cutout, however, for routing the GPU cable, but I think they could have done a bit more with it, like an additional large cutout up top for extra functionality. It is now attached with thumb screws instead of screws, as we saw in the Pro, for easier installation and removal. All of the storage is hidden behind this plain black metal piece and accessed only from the rear. The cages are modular that are held in with thumb screws, with support for 6 drives in total, and each caddy utilizes wing-like design to secure the mechanical drives to avoid flexing the caddy, and the SSDs are mounted in the center. Being water cooling ready, the Enthoo Luxe ships with a reservoir bracket that's mounted on the internal wall of the cage, with multiple mounting holes for different types of reservoirs. Each cage can also support a 120mm fan, although you will have to remove the supporting beam first, as it doesn't allow clearance, and this way you gain some additional airflow. And don't worry, we still have over 13 inches for GPU clearance, so you can still utilize those fan mounts if needed. The Enthoo Luxe also ships with a pump bracket. That's right, this case is super water cooling friendly. The bracket is rubberized on both sides that can be installed on the floor of the case, and that's why I would love to see the power supply bracket with appropriate cutout to perhaps allow the pump and tubing to exit while hiding the power supply. The pump bracket can also be installed on top of the cage platform. And removing the platform, we get room for a 240mm radiator, while still having about 200mm of clearance for your power supply. Very nice Phanteks. Coming around to the back, it's a familiar scene with Velcro cable management strips, and all of the preliminary cable routing is already complete. Sweet. There's also a fan hub that can be repositioned slightly below the default location. It supports 6 fans. You either have full 12-volt SATA power or connect through a PWM connector for speed control through your motherboard. And that is exactly how the fan controls hubs should be implemented. The bottom portion is slightly wider to accommodate for thicker exiting cables, plus additional cable tie mounts for easier installation and dual SSD spot. Although we only get one bracket, and for this price I would expect 2, but still it's a good way to stash away your SSDs. And one thing I also really appreciate is the included accessory box for all the screws that puts every other accessory box to shame. Seriously. And so let's check out the build. The internals are roomy, cables are totally under control, compartments are separated for hassle-free assembly, and the system looks gorgeous. I love the small cutouts right underneath the motherboard, and everything up top looks super clean as well. So it is very easy to recommend this for the first time builders, as it's not only enjoyable but very much rewarding as well once fully ready. And thanks to the ample space at the back, cables can be left as they are, but of course with some time that can be made to look even more organized. If you want to place back the power supply cover, you can to hide the unit, although with all black cables this still looks stellar. And placing the window panel back on, you can see the potential for really awesome lighting, as it is quite revealing. And all in all, the Enthoo Luxe by the name is just a more of a luxurious revision with its lighting effects and sand-blasted aluminum, but it still carries all the outstanding core features as we saw with the Enthoo Pro, such as flexible water cooling support, fully dust-proof, easy cable management that cleans up very well, the inclusion of the power supply bracket for that stealth look, PWM fan hub, and totally modular design that allows you to remove the top panel, the hard drive plate, and the optical cage for really cool modding potential. However, as we've said in the past, I feel the power supply bracket needs to have additional cutouts to allow airflow or cabling to pass through if the bottom fan slots are utilized. And while I can appreciate the custom lighting, the colors here are very specific that might not exactly color match to the LEDs on your hardware, and I think full hue shifter is more appropriate. Everything about this damn good case though screams quality, and while I personally think the $40 markup is a little too much for lighting and aluminum additions, those who want only the best have now gotten 2 choices, so you gotta choose between the Luxe or the Pro if you want this entire amazing package. But what do you guys think? Would you choose the Luxe or the Pro? Is the $40 worth it for these additional features? Leave your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe for many more reviews like this, and we'll see you in the next one.